gentlemen, please welcome your host for this evening and Master of Ceremonies for the convention, Dr. Dick Caldwell.
When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, yeah, when you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, oh, you bring on the rain, stop your sighing. Metaphysics, the belief that we all share. New thought teaching, not hellfire preaching, is how we show we care. So when you're treating, you know you're on track, just keep repeating. We don't accept black, to some it's a joke, folks, but we're not occult, folks. We're metaphysicians, me and you. When you're smiling, oh, when you're smiling, and the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, oh, when you're laughing, you know the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, oh, you bring on the rain, stop your sighing. Come on, be happy again. Keep on smiling. 'Cause when you're smiling, yeah, the whole world smiles with you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Here's to us as metaphysicians, practitioners of the word, who can captivate a congregation wherever we are heard. We practice and rehearse our talk so every point's down pat. We see it all within our mind like a Xerox photostat. We put in gestures and body moves to strike the perfect note. We never end a point we make without an anecdote. We use our voices to soothe and shock with a maximum use of phonics. We master stories and parables, steal jokes from all the comics. but it's how we touch our listeners' lives and how they change their living and how they demonstrate that change means more than what they're giving. So with all our pulpit miracles, our verve and style and grace, let's please remember what we say is still what really means the most. For you and I have influence to illuminate the mind. We truly constitute a force that can impact all mankind. So let's make sure each time we speak, we don't just nudge and prod, but always, always strive to serve our oath, our pledge, our God. The metaphysician's prayer. Well, it is so nice to see all you here, and we welcome you to the 50th anniversary celebration of Dr. Paul Leon Masters' 50 years in the metaphysical. Now, I'm going to ask him to sort of turn his head, and I'd like to see the hands of everybody that wasn't born when he started this 50 years ago. If you weren't born when he started this, let me see your hands. Got a few liars in the audience too, I see. Well, it's a great honor for me to be here with you. And it's wonderful that we're having it at this particular hotel. This is a great hotel. I know most of you are staying here, I guess. And I knew it was a good hotel because I have a friend up in Wyoming who stayed here, and he was in what they call the villas units or something like that. And he told me, he said, Dick, you talk about plush. He said the towels and the robes in my room were so big and fluffy I could hardly get my suitcase closed. Shows you the kind of friends I have in Wyoming. But I gotta admit, I enjoy staying in a really good hotel. But if you want to stay in a really good hotel, you have to be prepared to spend good money, right? It's not cheap. The most expensive hotel I was ever at was on the big island of Hawaii. It's called the Mauna Kea. Some of you know, right? And I was walking through the lobby of the Mauna Kea, and I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help but hear a lady at the front desk. She was getting ready to check out, and the desk clerk gave her her bill, and she looked at it. I thought she was going to have a heart attack. She started hyperventilating, and she said, "This is ridiculous. I can't believe this amount of money. Who's the manager here?" The desk clerk said, "Well, the manager is Ms. Jones." She said, "Well, I want to see Ms. Jones right now." So the manager came out, and she says, "How can you possibly justify this much money? My husband and I have only been here a few nights." The manager said, "Well, you have to understand, this is a world-class facility. We have 12 24-hour lighted tennis courts." The lady said, "Well, my husband has this thing with his elbow. He can't, we didn't use that." The manager said, "Yes, but it was there for you." And she said, "Do you know that we have 2 championship golf courses?" The lady said, "I think that's the dumbest thing in the world. Hit a ball, chase it, hit a ball, chase it, hit a ball." We didn't do that either. She said, "Yes, but it was there for you. And did you know that we have an Olympic-sized swimming pool plus a heated swimming pool?" The lady said, "If you saw the way my husband looks in a bathing suit, we didn't use that either." She said, "But it was there for you." And she said, "We have 6 gourmet restaurants right on the property." The lady said, "Yeah, I saw the prices on those. We ate downtown." She said, "But it was there for you." Well, this time, the hotel guest took that bill. She scratched out the total. She wrote a number in, handed it back to the manager, and opened her wallet. The manager looked at it, and she says, "What do you think you're doing? You just deducted $500 from the bill." The lady said, "Yeah, that's for you fooling around with my husband while we were here." The manager said, "I never touched your husband." She said, "Yeah, but he was there for you." Well, it's good to hear you laugh. It's good to hear you laugh, and isn't it wonderful to be metaphysicians and be able to laugh and have a good time and enjoy ourselves and still be spiritual. It's so nice to be able to laugh at ourselves and laugh at what goes on around us, and there's a lot to laugh. Not all ministers have that luxury. I belong to the Sheridan Ministerial Association up in Wyoming, and one of the members is a Baptist minister. In 7 years, I've never seen the man smile. Of course, you know why Baptists are against sex, don't you? They're afraid it'll lead to dancing. That's right, we're going to get them all. Don't. And of course, you know that there are 3 basic religious truths. Jews do not recognize Jesus as the Messiah. Christians do not recognize the Pope as the leader of the Christian church. And Baptists do not recognize each other at the liquor store. Or at Hooters. I like Pearly Gates stories. They're much funnier than Bill Gates stories. And there was a man appeared at the Pearly Gates, and St. Peter said, well, is there anything that you've done that has been noteworthy or something that was special? And the man said, well, there was this one thing that I can mention. I was driving in the Black Hills, and I was close to the place where all the motorcycles go in South Dakota. All of a sudden, I can't remember where the motorcycles go. Yes, thank you, sir. And he said, and I was driving there, and I saw this gang of bikers, and they were harassing and threatening a young woman. And I stopped, and I told them to let her alone, but they wouldn't back off. So I picked out the largest, most heavily tattooed biker, and I slapped him in the face, and I kicked over his bike, and I said, now all of you back off, or you're going to really feel some pain. Well, St. Peter was really impressed. He said, wow, when did this happen? The guy said, about 2 minutes ago. Here's another one. After a long illness, a woman died and went to heaven. And while she was waiting for St. Peter to come and let her in, she peeked through the gates and she saw this beautiful banquet table and all of her friends, her parents and friends and loved ones that had died before, they were all there, and they saw her and they were waving to her. Hello, good to see you, we've been waiting for you. And St. Peter came and she said, oh, this is the most fabulous place, how do I get in? He said, you have to spell a word. She said, what's the word? He said, love. So she correctly spelled love, and St. Peter welcomed her to heaven. About 6 months later, St. Peter comes to her and he said, would you guard the gates of heaven for me for today? I'm busy. Would you mind the gate? She said, of course. So while she's guarding the gates of heaven, her husband shows up. She says, I'm surprised to see you. How have you been? He says, well, I've been doing pretty good. Since you died, I married that beautiful young nurse that took care of you while you were ill. And I won the lottery, so I sold that little house we were living in, and I bought a big mansion, and my wife and I have been traveling all over the world. In fact, we were on vacation, and I was water skiing, and I fell, and the ski hit me in the head, and here I am. How do I get in? She said, you have to spell a word. He said, which word? She said, Czechoslovakia. We all have different ways of doing our ministry. I no longer am a full-time minister, but I do a lot of weddings, I do some counseling, and I work with senior citizens, which I like to call seasoned citizens. And recently I went to visit a guy at Rocky Mountain Retirement Center. And I said, how you doing? He said, well, 83 years old and I feel just like a newborn baby. He said, oh, I said, wow, just like a newborn baby. He said, yeah, no hair, no teeth, and I think I just wet my pants. There are several retired ministers that are living at that nursing home, and 3 of them were out for a walk. A Lutheran, a Methodist, and a Presbyterian. The first one says, boy, it's really windy today. The second one said, no, it's Thursday. And the other one said, so am I, let's go get a drink. I recently went with a woman to the hospital to be with her while her husband was recovering or coming out of the anesthetic after surgery. And we were sitting at the bedside, and his eyes fluttered, and he woke up and he looked at her and he said, "You're beautiful." And he went back to sleep. And she told me he had never said that before. And a few minutes later, he woke up again and he looked at her and he said, "You're cute." And she was a little disappointed. She says, "Cute? What happened to beautiful?" He said, "Well, the drugs are wearing off." Another colleague of mine in the Sheridan Ministerial Association is Father Og. And he was telling me about a religious young woman that came for confession. And she came into the confessional and she said, "Father, forgive me for I have sinned." And he said, "Well, confess your sins and be forgiven." What did you do? She said, "Well, last night my boyfriend made mad, passionate love to me 7 times. So the priest thought about this long and hard, and he said, "Well, squeeze 7 lemons into a glass and drink the juice." And the young woman said, "Will that cleanse me of my sins?" Father Og said, "No, but it'll wipe that grin off your face." Father Og is a man of few words. The phone rang in the rectory. The voice on the other end said, "Hello, is this Father Og?" "It is." "This is the IRS calling. Can you help us?" "I can." "Do you know a Ted Houlihan?" "I do." "Is he a member of your congregation?" "He is." "Did he donate $10,000 to the church?" "He will." Two men die and go to heaven. St. Peter's giving them a tour of heaven. And they're going down this one hallway, and St. Peter says, "Shh, we have to be very quiet going down this hall, past this door." Somebody said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because those are the Mormons in there, and they think they're the only ones here." Let's see, we don't want to leave anybody out. 2 Unitarian ministers are talking. And they're talking about the decline of morals in our civilization and in our society and how promiscuous people are. And the one of them said, "Well, I'll tell you this, I never slept with my wife before we were married." He said very self-righteously, he says, "How about you?" And the other one said, "I don't know, what was her maiden name?" One more. A priest, a rabbi, and a fundamentalist preacher walk into a bar. We didn't think there was going to be a monologue without a walk into a bar joke, did you? This is a place that they would go from time to time and talk shop and just relax. And on this one particular day, someone mentioned that they thought it was not that hard to preach to people. What would really be hard would be to preach to a bear. So they thought about this, and they decided to do an experiment. They decided that they would each go out into the woods, find a bear, preach to it, and try to convert it. And then they'd get together and report how it went. So 7 days later, they're together. And Father Flannery, he goes first. He says, "Well, I went out into the woods, and I found me a bear, and I got out my catechism and I started reading to that bear from the catechism. He didn't want nothing to do with me. He started slapping me around. And I reached over and I grabbed my holy water and I sprinkled him, and Holy Mary, Mother of God, he became tame as a lamb." The bishop's coming out next week to give him First Communion, so Reverend Billy Bob, he went next. And in his best fire and brimstone voice, he said, "Well, you know that we don't believe in sprinkling. I went and I found me a bear. And I started reading to him from God's holy word. But he didn't want anything to do with me. And he started slapping me around. So I grabbed him. And we started wrestling. And we went down one hill and up another hill and down another hill. And we came to a creek. And I pushed him into the creek, and I dunked him, and I baptized his hairy soul, and he became as gentle as a lamb. And we spent the rest of the day reading from the Word of God. looked down at the rabbi. He was in a hospital bed. His entire body was in traction. And he had IV drip coming out of him. And he looked up and he said, thinking back on it, I guess that circumcision wasn't the best way to start.